Chapter 36, A Mortal Threat. Over the years, some scholars have suggested that Isaiah was a poor historian, that he recorded events out of order or incompletely. What they don't seem to understand is that Isaiah wasn't writing as a historian, he was writing as a prophet, and he was using historical events as types of things that would occur in the last days. Here in chapter 36, he says that the king of Assyria, Sennacherib, had sent the chief officer of his armies to Jerusalem. The Assyrian army was on its way to battle Egypt for supremacy of the region, and since Judah was part of that region, the Assyrian armies were sacking Judah's cities and taking plunder along the way. When they arrived at Jerusalem, however, King Hezekiah, of whom we will hear much more, refused to capitulate to the Assyrians. So, with a great army outside of Jerusalem, the Assyrian general, Rabshakeh, challenges the Jewish leaders outside the city gates, hoping to intimidate them so that they would surrender. But Rabshakeh is not his name, but his title as the chief Assyrian general. The three Jewish emissaries were Eliakim, whom we saw in chapter 22, and who is now in his new position over all the house of David, and Shebna, whom he replaced, and Joah. The Assyrian general, Rabshakeh, is surprised that the Jews are refusing to surrender, that they're even considering fighting the Assyrian army. After all, the Assyrians have already shown their supremacy by destroying the northern tribes of Israel, as well as many other Jewish cities to the north. What makes the people in Jerusalem think they can stand up to the fierce Assyrian army? And fierce is the right word, along with merciless, ruthless, and savage. The Assyrians had a history of skinning and burning people alive who resisted them. So these Jewish leaders knew what their fate would be if they fought the Assyrians and lost. Speaking loudly so that many could hear him, Rabshakeh lists the reasons why the Jews should capitulate. They really can't depend on Egypt for help because Egypt is already splintered as a power, which was mostly true. They couldn't depend on Jehovah, he said, because King Hezekiah had torn down the altars at which they had worshipped for many years. Of course, he was wrong about this, as Hezekiah had only removed the altars where false gods had been worshipped. Rabshakeh then mocks the Jews and makes them a wager. We will give you 2,000 horses if you can find riders to put on them. But of course he knew the Jews couldn't provide riders for those horses because they'd always relied upon the Egyptians for chariots and horses and their riders to protect them. And if the people of Jerusalem couldn't provide horsemen, how could they hope to defeat even the least of the Assyrian captains? Then he makes a bald-faced lie. He claims he has already destroyed much of this land because the Lord, Jehovah, said unto him, "Go up against this land and destroy it." Clearly, Jehovah had told him no such thing. The Jewish emissaries quickly ask Rabshakeh to speak only in the Assyrian language, so the townspeople standing on the walls won't understand these threats. But Rabshakeh spoke more loudly, in Hebrew, so all who were there could hear him. He tells them that they would be kept alive and eventually taken to a land just like your own land, a land of corn and wine, a land of bread and vineyards. Of course, he's lying again. The 10 tribes had been taken away to far distant lands, where many had died, and many others had lost their Israelite identity. Then Rabshakeh says, "Where are the gods of the other lands that we have sacked? Where are the gods of Hamath and Arphad and others, all of whom we have destroyed? If their gods couldn't protect them, how can your God protect you?" And of course, all the people hearing this had to ask themselves, will our God protect us? When Rabshakeh was done, the 3 Jewish representatives went back to King Hezekiah with their clothes rent to relay the awful news. Tearing their clothes was an ancient custom to display grief, desperation, and even anger. When they went into Hezekiah, there were probably over 200,000 enemy troops outside the city, just waiting for the order to go in and slay and rape and plunder. No doubt the entire population of Jerusalem was terrified. No doubt they prayed for their king to give the right answer to save their lives. But Isaiah doesn't give us King Hezekiah's response in this chapter. We have to wait until the next chapter. Remember, this isn't just history. This is prophecy. And we will see exactly how the Lord will respond when righteous covenant people are threatened in the same way in the last days. Until then, this is Curtis Taylor with the Words of Isaiah.